Bobby, how about some joyous music? You know, so many sad things going on in the world. Maybe some joyous music to get us into a Monday. It is hashtag Real Race Talk, the Revved Up Sports Show. Thank you all for being a part of the program. Showtime Bobby Chaffee is on the road once again, living the hotel life, man. And I would say the sweet life, but I don't know exactly what your confines look like, my man. Kind of give us a lay down of what you're doing right there.
Well, it's not as good as it was in Fort Worth, being downtown at the Harper. I
Yeah.
can't even tell you the name of the hotel I'm at now. All I know is they charge me because I'm next to the lake up here in Rockwall, but I don't have a lake view from my room. I've got a view of a Starbucks and an overpriced Genghis Grill type of hibachi place. So now it does smell good when I go outside to the car, the little hibachi grill. But yeah, it's they charge me for Lakeview price view because it's right outside. I think this Ray Hubbard Lake maybe up here. I don't know.
Yeah.
They're doing a bunch of construction on the bridge and all that, but it's pretty. The lake's very nice, very big. Hadn't got a chance to tour that. I was going to go to the Bass Pro Shops yesterday, but the Chicago Street Race ran long. So I'm going to venture over to Bass Pro Shops probably tomorrow or tonight, depending on how early we get done.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about that street race and all those things going on, and lots of really cool stuff that we're going to be doing this evening. Jason Ingalls joining us as he's kind of in the the hotbed there of some of the weather stuff that's been going on, and then Jared Fryer will join us after his return to the Cars Tour. So really excited there, and as you see right there, depending where you're checking in, whether it's on Racing America, Race On. RevvedUpSportsShow.com, on the Facebook feeds, all the different places. Let us know, especially if you're in that Houston area, because this this barrel, it's been really interesting to watch everything that's been going on throughout the weekend. I thought that at one point here where I'm at that we were going to get washed out, and of course it took that other path. And I do want to say that one of the things that we talked about last week on the show was that you had the big race coming up in Houston. And I think the fact that between Owen and Dean Baker, that they washed that race out a little early was a really good call, because Saturday the shit hit the fan in Houston, and right now it's really out of control. So you guys, if you're out that way, let us know that you're okay. If you need some help, let us know. We'll try to figure out ways to get people to you, because, man, that is a mess over there happening right now.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. When the Weather Channel says get out of Dodge,
Yeah.
and I think the track just kept getting further east and east and east, and we went from forecasting 12 inches of rain in Central Texas around Austin to we get a drop today. So
yeah, that was the thing. I mean, it looked like the target was going to be right here to where we were going to get, like here where I'm at, north of Austin. I was planning for 6 to 8 inches of rain and doing different things and taking precautions. And I mean, the thing turned and it's kind of gone a different direction. But the one thing that I do want to say, because I saw a lot of people downplaying everything that was going on right there, but I saw some drone footage from downtown Houston out there around Minute Maid Park and all those different places. I saw something out in Humble, which is close to HMP. And this thing is our man Bob Clark. I saw that he's got a tree down in the middle of his road, and a lot of people, the Ingleside area. It's definitely something that you don't want to mess with, and we're just hoping for the best for all those people. And that thing's kind of just still rolling at this point.
Yeah, it's never a good deal, and it may not be. The couple of the weather dudes that I watched said that it might not be the last one that comes and hits us. So they said just be on the lookout. This could be a very, very active tropical hurricane season. So I didn't realize my picture was so bad on this thing. Not only not just the normal picture, but man. Yeah, you got to love hotel internet when you're trying to do an internet-based radio show.
Well, it's one of those things to where when you're dealing with this sort of thing, it gets really hard. And the whole thing about it is, I mean, especially out your way, because I could have a trip to Dallas coming up a little bit later on this week. And I was talking to those folks, and it's like, hey, just hold on. Let's kind of work on what we're going to be doing right there, because I mean, this thing is kind of shifted and doing really weird things right there. But this is where obviously we're going to talk racing. We're going to have a lot of fun. talking about different topics and talking about things that are really, really cool. But the bottom line comes down to right now what our main concern is here with the show, with the RPM network, is just everybody's well-being. So again, if there's any folks that are in need, I really think that our viewership may be down tonight. I think there's a lot of folks who probably don't have one power, that maybe don't have internet access and all that. So just kind of hang in there, and man, if there's anything that we can do, again, you can always dive in right here. We know a lot of folks that do a lot of different things when it comes to disaster recovery and so forth. Revved Up Sports Show at gmail.com. If you were in a bad spot, let us know, and let us try to help you to get the right folks in place that may be able to help you in this time of need.
Yeah, no, it's definitely, we'd have some little people who probably would still be trying to watch on their phones, and they need to be saving their phones for news updates, but they're probably sitting there on their couch in the dark, but on their phone watching us. So we appreciate that type of loyalty.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, you guys, if it's a matter of saving battery power and saving Wi-Fi and all that, don't be watching this shit. Go in there and watch the important stuff, and make sure that you guys are doing okay. Bobby, before we dive in, and I think Jason Ingalls, I see him locked and loaded, ready to go. We'll pull him in here in about 4 minutes. Lots of different things to talk about tonight. I do want to talk about Haley Deegan. That's a conversation that we need to talk about. We need to talk about Ricky Thornton Jr. and everything that's gone on right there. And that dude has obviously found a ride. He has found himself into a race car tonight, which is not a surprise, but just kind of everything, the way that happened right there. But one of the biggest DMs, and I'm sure you probably got this as well, as we got to the weekend and everything started happening. Man, I got this one a lot, because you and I doing what we do when it comes to broadcasting and various stuff. People kept sending me this.
Yeah. There he is. They made the decision. You're a winner. Picking it up tonight, climbing the fence. Hey, fuck you, buddy. Wood, picking up P2. Come on up, Jack Wood. Congratulations, dude. P2 tonight. What a gentleman. Class act. We're not, ladies and gentlemen, they're so disrespectful. I'm not interviewing them. They don't need it. Come on out.
Yeah, probably should have dropped the PSA right there at the beginning of that, but I think as it probably started, people knew what that was. But
Yeah, I sent it to you too. I mean, I was like, hey, we need to play this. You're like, already got it.
Man, little uncalled for right there. I mean, I totally get it. And again, this goes back to the hot mic thing. But I think kind of a lot of this discussion is, this is not only a dude that's calling the race. This is it's a promoter, and I think, to me, with everything that we've talked about, and I think that there's been some kind of some cross stuff there with Venturini Motorsports and with Sean winning that race and everything that's going on right there. But just totally uncalled for, and again, another black eye on the sport when you start doing stuff like that. I almost said shit.
Well,
when you start doing stuff
part of it, I think part of it, they said that somebody tried to take the mic from him.
That's what
it was.
That's
what caused the whole part. Yeah, somebody on that team tried to take the mic from him, or something like that. Or I couldn't be. I thought it was the second place team that tried to do it, because they were the ones that that he interviewed. So I think it had something to do with somebody trying to take the mic from him, and no, they don't have that on camera.
Yeah, of course.
But
yeah.
I don't know. It's just. Rule number 1, always know your mic's probably on. Even when it's not.
Yeah. And from and again, all hypothetical, because you pick this stuff up from the stuff that's going on, that you read on X or whatever the case is. And it was a thing there with Billy Jr., with Billy Venturini. And whatever the case is right there, but it's I totally get hyping the crowd up and all of that, but it's just a bad look. And I think the whole thing with this, Bobby, what kind of it's ARCA. So it's like, oh man, here we go, another black eye and another situation here on the Arkham Menard series, and you can't say I'm not going to talk to the first place guy. They don't deserve it. I mean, you just can't do that. But this is what this is Irwindale, right? So
Yeah,
this,
we're down.
I mean, what's a future hold for this place anyway?
Well, I mean, it's always up in the air, right? They do a year-to-year lease. Every time you read at the end of the year, it's like this place could be torn down. Some kind of warehouse is going to be put here. You hear that at the end of every year. Somehow it's managed to stay a racetrack the last 15, 20 years. So they film a lot of TV stuff there. Like anytime you see racing on a TV show, it's pretty much filmed there at Irwindale. Same thing if you see a racetrack on like a commercial, it's probably filmed there at Irwindale. So they've done a lot over there to keep the place open as a racetrack. And but yeah, that's in our business, sometimes you have to eat crow. And sometimes, what is the saying is that the toes you step on today are connected to the ass you have to kiss tomorrow.
That's right.
So in our business, sometimes you got to eat a lot of crow, and you got to do. We've all been there. You've been there with me in a tower when I've had to eat crow. So it's something we all have to do as announcers. But man, that puts an extra spike on the announcing thing because there's going to be some people that'll be talked about this weekend. It also puts another black eye on ARCA, like you said. But it definitely, I don't know. It just raises I think it just adds to the element of how important the announcers are. We get a lot of grief sometimes when everything goes right, nobody says a word. When something goes wrong, that's when you say something the wrong way or say something wrong. That's when people lose their damn minds.
That's right. Absolutely. Every time. And just not handled well. But again, they'll move on. And again, we can revisit that coming up just later on in the show. Again, we'll talk about the Haley Deegan thing. We'll dive into that. Ricky Thornton Jr., all of that situation with the breaking news and all of those things happening. But let's dive in right now while we can. Because as we've been talking about right here along the Texas, and I get a lot of folks that are reaching out to me, and it's like, "Are you okay in Texas?" I'm like, "I'm in Central Texas." It's avoided me. I think a lot of people just don't really realize how big Texas is when it comes to these situations, and even I think the maps just don't give the credence to what we're dealing with around here. But joining us, diving in, I think kind of been in the midst of some of that stuff. It is our man, Jason Ingalls, coming off of a very good week last week going to the 4th of July, but maybe not today quite so bad or quite so good. Most importantly, Jason, how are you guys doing?
We're doing good. We've had a lot of rough weather today, but they've had a couple of tornado warnings and stuff, but got some electricity out, and I had to get in my truck and go down the road just to try to get service so I could get this deal done.
Oh, Jason, and thank you so much for doing that. When you messaged, I was going to be like, man, you take care of the important stuff. First and foremost, family, everything good. I mean, that's the most important thing at this point for us.
Yeah, everything's good. We'll just have to get some generators going here after a while and try to get everybody through the night. And I don't know how long this electricity is going to be out.
Absolutely.
Well, we'll do better stuff. Talk about the last week, the 4th of July weekend for you. I know that it was up and down in terms of literally from where you went on one night to what happened the next night. Talk about the effort to rebuild that car, man, because the pictures that we got to see, it looked like it was pretty tore up, but somehow, some way, you rebounded for a top 5 finish on that deal. Talk about that whole deal last week.
And when you race around a bunch of good group of racers, it helps out. And fortunately, I have a lot of good friends out there, and everybody's seen it happen. And by the time I got back to the pits, I have 4 or 5 guys at my trailer asking what they could do to help. And Chase Allen, Kel Westover, the Hilliards. I mean, everybody was over there, helping, and I'm glad they was, because we wouldn't have made it happen otherwise. But we managed to get everything pieced back together, and limped it back out for the B feature, and qualified in, and just lucked out and had a good finish in the feature. We still got some tore up stuff out of the deal, but I'll be working on it this week.
Jason, talk about that part. I think a lot of folks don't understand when you have to get in there, and whether it's you and your folks or other guys that come over, when you have to start thrashing like that, folks don't understand that is something to where it's like, don't bother me. We're working on stuff. it's a lot that goes into that because you can't just throw shit together. You got to work in there and try to get it just as right as possible.
Yeah, exactly. And the main thing is you got to have somebody that knows how to. I
Yeah,
mean, just anybody can't come in there and help as much as you'd like to say, yeah, help. But you got to have guys that know what they're doing to get it done right. So, because you ain't got time to double check it. So, I was fortunate enough to have guys there that around us that was able to chip in and help, and definitely thankful for that.
absolutely.
So let's talk about the good side. Let's talk about the winning from the last couple of weeks. From you kind of a roll. So one, how did the winning feel? And then two, have you just been around long enough? You just let the roller coaster just be the roller coaster? Because I know it would just rip my emotions inside to go from the penthouse to the outhouse and then try to do it back all over again. Talk about how you get through some of that stuff.
Now I've done it a long time, so you just kind of you got to go with the ups and downs of racing because I mean you race long enough, you're going to have ups and downs, and this year has kind of been a struggle. Like we've had a lot of good runs going and just stuff break. Just I ain't had the best of years to start with, so to get that win Wednesday night was definitely much needed. For my confidence and just being out there and just the self motivation to keep going. So it was definitely a good night.
Absolutely. Big win right there in the Tommy Davis Memorial there at Hutton County. Excuse me. Talk about that one there, Jason, because I mean, that was a stacked field. I mean, you got Certain, you got Rowdy Day, you got all these guys. I mean, when it comes down to these modifieds right here, there's lots of different variations of modifieds around these parts. But man, anytime you get a big show like that, you're going to bring the big hitters. And for you to pull that one out, man, that's kind of one of those things that can turn a season around for you.
Oh yeah, for sure. We was fortunate enough to draw good, start on the front row, and then we turned around and did the redraw and started on the front row. I felt like we had a good car either way, but it always makes it a little easier when you get to start on the front. But yeah, definitely the outlaw mods. No matter where you go anymore, there's a stacked field. So I mean, the weekly races are tough, and then let alone be a memorial race, to for Tommy Davis. That was a definitely a big honor to win that. The Tommy Davis Tommy Davis Jr. I've got to know him pretty well
Yeah.
and a good friend, and I didn't know his dad that well, but he's definitely left memories through racing. So he was definitely a legend.
Absolutely.
So, Jason, talk about where the outlaw mods are as kind of a whole, right? It's like we've seen them fluctuate. They ended up doing a tour down in South Texas for the IMCA sanction to get a bigger field of cars together. Heart of Texas kind of quit running them because there weren't enough of them showing up. It seems like North Texas is a little bit more stable. East Texas as well, where you've got a decent field. Where are the kind of outlaw mods at? Are they on the upswing? Are they about where they were? Talk about that class as a whole up there, at least in your area.
Our area is good, but you get 3 or 4 tracks in the area that starts running them. Everybody kind of picks up and starts trying to support it. So, and it feels like 2 to 3 years ago, it was kind of on the downswing. But Donnie Powers bought Arclitex and started made sure they was going to run every night, and then Boot Hill started running them a few more times. Then all the Dallas tracks that run them, so it seems like it's kind of back on the upswing now. So I hope it can stay that way because I enjoy doing the mods, for sure, and definitely a lot of good racers out there, supporting it each weekend and week out.
Absolutely. And Jason, talk about that part. I mean, and somebody mentioned your dad right there on Rand, Monty Chamberlain down here south, talking about your dad. Of course, I mean, yes, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the greats, one of the pillars right there. But the conversation that always comes up when we talk about it here on Revved Up is when it comes to the tracks, cooperation is really hard because you only have a certain amount of race dates that you're going to be able to get stuff done. And I think a lot of folks misconstrue or whatever about cooperation. Sometimes that gets a little hard because you're trying to get as many race dates as possible and you want to get the best car count that you have. And when it comes to you guys in modifieds, kind of magnifies it even a little more, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Louisiana region, Arclitex region, kind of, to me, from what I've seen, they kind of focus first on trying to work with each other, the area tracks, and it's paid off big. That I mean, for the racers to succeed, the tracks got to succeed. So I mean, we
Yep.
all understand that. We we need the tracks just as much as they need the racers. So, and it seems like some of the, you know, Dallas tracks have started picking up on trying to work with each other, and it works out for everybody when they work together. So I hope they can continue to do that.
For sure.
So, Jason, how different is the Arklatex region compared to, say, the Dallas region? Geographically, they're somewhat close together, but I don't know what the magic sauce is up there between like Boot Hill and Arklatex and some of those other Sabine and some of those tracks up there. It just seems like everything they touch turns to gold, whether it's big mods, limited mods, factory stocks. I don't know what the magic formula is to get that spread out, across the state and across the country. What in your mind is the magic formula for it? Is it just breaking down simple where they're just working with each other and working with the racers?
Well, Boot Hill Speedway, I think, is the heart of the Arklatex region, and it's been there so long. It's such a legendary track to go run, and it's just got a big history to it. It's on Interstate 20. It's got a good population base, and everything to me thrives around Boot Hill. The area tracks that work with it, Arklatex has always been a good track. Donnie Powers and them coming in and took it over from Gene Boarder here 2 or 3 years ago, and they want mods to succeed. But with all the tracks working together, nowadays it takes that, because it seems like the fan base is more over the media than it is over being there in person now. So it takes the tracks working together to be successful. But Boot Hill, I think, is the heart of it. So as long as we can keep that going, and Rollo and Bubba Jones are doing such a great job with it. Everybody wants to go show up at.
Oh man, there we go. Oh, we got him. I think we got you back.
Did I lose you?
Still there, Jason? I think. Yeah, we got you. I think we got you back momentarily. Again, remember, Jason is in the weather
How about
area.
you? Y'all got me now?
Yep, we got you now. I think we got you back. Right. Yep. All right. Kind of a little adjusting right there on the fly. So we'll kind of let him pull himself back in there. But man, and there he goes. What he's talking about. I mean, it all comes back to. And if we lose him, by the way, thank you for even doing that, because that right there, I think the last thing that I'd have been concerned about was talking to you and me. So
yeah, no doubt.
That is really, really cool right there with him. And I think we got him back right there. Yep, absolutely. Yep.
Sorry
got
about
you
that.
now. No, man, that is okay. That is okay. So Jason, I did want to ask you. So I think one of the things is like we talk about with I hate to say the resurgence of the modifieds, because they never left. They kind of fell off a little bit, like we talked about right there. But when you have these big events, and you have like Toms, and you have Southern divisions and all these different things, and then with late models and sprint cars, to you. Let's take the fact out that you can drive any of these things. If you were a casual race fan and it was sprint cars, because sprint car is you got 305s, you got 410s, 360s, all these different things. If it were up to you, what would be the class that you would want to show up, Jason Ingalls, as a fan and watch a badass race, whether it's a modified, a sprint car, or some sort of factory stock now that's a part of the equation?
Yeah, the factory stocks put on such big money races nowadays that they're definitely a fan thrived base. But as far as me, I got to watch the late models. The Lucas Oil and World Outlaw late models. Like I'm 100% late model fan. I love watching the modifieds as well. Sprint cars, I like them when they're having a good race. They sometimes get strung out, and them 25 lap races don't last long enough for me. So I'm more about the 50 and 75 lap late model races. It seems like the sprint cars, they do have good races a lot of times, but 25 laps, sometimes they're just getting good and the race is over. Not taking nothing away from them, because I enjoy them when they're really having a good one, but the late models by far.
Absolutely.
So, Jason, you probably can't see it. I don't know if you can on the small screen on your phone. We've got a picture of you in Victory Lane there at Texas Motor Speedway, the dirt track over there. That big monstrosity they have up there that they try to revive every so often. What was like winning at that place, man? Because that's a show palace dirt track or asphalt, whatever the surface could be on that place. That place is awesome for a regular racetrack.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like Texas Motor Speedway is like top tier dirt track. So like anytime you can get a win there is special. That and there was special. It was a Tony Stewart. Sprint cars were there and just a big, huge crowd. Like it was, just definitely left a special memory there.
Yeah. And Jason, I really think that I know that they're trying to revive that and trying to get that thing back in the fold. And TMS has its own set of problems, but I really think that if that place were able to be kind of be a center for everything that goes on up there, I think if you could kind of have that hotbed right there, I think that would be something really cool that might help magnify an already growing base of people that want to see you guys in modifieds and sprint cars and late models and all that stuff.
Yeah, XR, did it here 2 years
Mhm.
ago, and we really enjoyed going up there every Monday night, and then all the, the weekend races that we got to participate in. It was definitely a fun event to go to. And I wish somebody could bring it back. And I understand, me and Chase Allen went in and leased Texas Motor Speedway that one year and did a big race there, and we really
Yep.
enjoyed that. But and it was fun, but at the same time, the cost expense of what it takes to run Texas Motor Speedway, I get it. They could, it's a big big expense to run it on a select events, and
Sure.
so they only do. I would love to see 2 or 3 events a year, but we'll see what for plays in the future.
That's right.
It's crazy how that place goes from a cornfield to a dirt track, like a racetrack. It always blows my mind with the before and after pictures at TMS. As far as big picture, your racing season as a whole, I mean, is it obviously you got a little speed bump with the weather happening there now with the, without the power and stuff like that. What's on tap for the rest of the season? Do you points race? Do you money race? Do you cherry pick? How do you pick the rest of your schedule for a certain race season?
Well, this year I kind of devoted this year going to the Tom's deal. Like I had never really run no point series in several years. We just kind of went here and there and wherever we wanted to, and try to get a few USMTS races in our region. We enjoy running them. But this year I kind of set out and said I want to try to run this Tom's deal one year. They got a really good package going for not that many races to keep you tied up weekly. And I think there's 13 races throughout the year, so I kind of picked that out, and I can still go run some of the other races that we want to make. So
So Jason, lastly, we always ask guys that come on here. We talk to drivers, car builders, business guys, separating the business part from the fun part, from the driving part. That oh man, I think you're right. I lost it again. No, it's all good. Separating that part because then you got customers that you got to take care of and all that. Does that limit some of the stuff that you want to not that you want to do? Does it sometimes have to limit you behind the wheel?
well, at some point, I wish I had the money to just go race all the time whenever we wanted and go up north and do that. Sometimes you got to stay home and take care of business. But I've got good guys at the shop. I got Chase Hatton and Ricky Ingles, my uncle, that, they take care of the shop when I am gone. So it does allow me to be free and go off occasionally. But I don't take advantage of it too much because I'm not trying to, you know, throw all the workload on them. I try to do my part as well. So.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. All right, my man. Again, thank you for doing this. You are a diehard man. We appreciate you getting to a safe zone, right? Well, a safe zone to a spot where you could actually jump on here and do this with us live. It's been a pleasure. We'll do it again, maybe in a better time. And again,
Yeah, yeah.
never worry to tell me no. Be like, dude, the weather's horrible. I can't do this shit.
No, we was able to make it happen. It's all good.
Absolutely. All right, brother. You guys be well. Thanks for taking the time. Good luck the rest of the year, and congratulations on that Tommy Davis Memorial.
All right. Thank you. Thank y'all.
You got it. There he goes. Die hard. That's a racer, Bobby. That's a racer. Found a way. Found a way.
It's got a better cell signal than what I got, and they ain't got no power.
Yeah. He's kind of over there in one of those spots. I mean, and it really is. I mean, you hear that dude there with Ingles. I mean, he he dives into one of these things, and I purposely asked that question because I know the sprint car thing is something that comes up all the time, and we hear it all the time to where folks are like, well, is it 305, all of that, like I was talking about. But how many of these guys, when they talk about it, it's like late models, late models, late models. Oh, God bless America, man. Those are so cool.
Well, it's starting to grow in popularity because if you really think about it, it's kind of like an asphalt late model. They all starting to they all start to look the same. No disrespect to the crate late models down at our home, closer to our home base in South Texas.
Mhm.
The I-37 late model class looks pretty close to, at just general glance, the Lucas Oil stuff, right? I know that's composed to oranges, but your casual fan's going to look at both, be like, oh, that's a late model. They can tell by the wedge nose, they can tell by the fluid out fitters, and all of that. Now, it's no different when we go to an asphalt track. You can tell the difference between a late model stock, pro late model, and a super late model. Once you see them on racing, then you realize that they're different. Now, the other classes, it's like when you have the open wheel classes, you got your big mod, your sport mod, your E mod, your junior limited. They all look the damn same because 3 of them are the same.
Yeah.
But I think your casual fan, the big races, you have to have casual fans in there to help make up the gate, right? Your hardcore fans are going to be there. They're the ones that help keep the place open. But your casual fans that come out and spend money on drinks and hot dogs and nachos and stuff like that, they're the ones that help make the profit to really keep the place going. There's a difference between keeping the place open and keeping the place going. If you barely can break even to keep the place open, that's one thing. But when you're not making any money, it's hard to expand out and make that racetrack even better. We've seen that with a lot of racetracks here lately where your core group of fans is just not. You got to get more of your casual fans up in them grandstands and in them pits.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really think about, because I was just watching, Saturday night. I mean, I was kind of honed in right there with everything that was going to get canceled and that had been canceled. It was like, okay, I was excited to watch 37, and I think that I-37 in Pleasanton for you guys that may be checking in, from different parts that aren't from Texas. I-37 in Pleasanton, that is. A lot of folks say it's in San Antonio. It is nowhere near San Antonio. It's closer to San Antonio than Corpus. Yeah. If you look at that I-37 corridor, which we've all been watching with the storm thing, but when it comes to late models, what I really like that Ray and those guys have done is they have a very formidable late model class, and it's repetitive. It's like all the time, and these guys are drawing so many different cars out there, and I think that you really do need to make these things an event right there, because when you pull a late model out and you pull when the stems come to town, and man, it broke my heart for those guys on Saturday night, that the fact that you couldn't get the stems and the late models racing on the same night. I mean, I've seen them race on the same night, and I think that was going to be a hellacious program had the weather not been a part of all that. But I mean, that's the stuff that's going to draw them in. And you're exactly right there, to where the casual fan, it's like, whatever. But when you have those type of things, that's going to be that's going to be the big hitter, the big ticket item that's really going to get people animated to be a part of some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think with the program that Mary Ann's running this weekend, which now looks like it's going to be on track because of the track of the hurricane further east, their big thing is says we're having sprint cars, right? Nobody's going to care if it's a 305, a 360, a 410. All they know is it says sprint car. Your diehards, yes, they know the difference, but your casual fan that goes out there every so often, they're the ones that are definitely going to know that, hey, these are sprint cars with the wings. I'm planning on being there. I will probably bring some friends with me that have not come to the racetrack in a while. And so we're looking forward to a big race weekend coming up there at Cotton Bowl Speedway. And I think that it's just because of the fact that it should be crowded because, one, Cotton Bowl hadn't raced in a while, and two, we're coming through to where, the magic number of stuff to show is sprint cars. And we get to dive into those around that high bank racetrack. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the key to any racing program is you got to find, nowadays it's so challenging for race fans is that you really do have to put the bang for the buck. And it's hard for a racetrack to come in and devote a whole lot of money to the purse, because the purse is where it's at, and you need the purse to draw some of these bigger car counts, but it's hard to pay out everything when they have such a massive amount of, when they have such, big purses for these bigger series that are coming in. So the chance, Hardy Texas does it really well there in Waco, Texas, when they go through and they just put sprint cars, late models, and models. They'll put it up on the marquee, and they'll get tons of cars up there where it comes through, and you'll get tons and tons of fans where they're going to go and say, hey, here we go with the sprint cars, the late models, and the modifieds, and it puts on a damn good show. And that's exactly what you see, that you put on a damn good show with those three classes, because that's the ones that move the needle. If you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that's a phrase I use a lot, is moving the needle. And nowadays you have to move the needle, whether you're watching on a streaming service, whether you're watching on TV or watching in person. You've got to move that needle to get everything rolling.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bobby, I think I may have frozen up on video, but I think you can hear me, hopefully.
I can hear you. All
right, good. Well, that's all good. We'll figure that part out. But yeah, you're exactly right there, because that's really what you have to do right there, is to be able to do that kind of stuff. And like you said, I mean, with Mariana and the program that she has coming up, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because you know what? We need to hear a little bit about what's coming up this weekend at Cotton Bowl Speedway.
Speedway is the place to be as the stars and cars return to the fast track in Page, Texas. But wait, there's more. Return of the Southern United Sprint Cars. But wait, there's more. It's night number 1 of the Summer Showdown Series. Gates open at 5 o'clock, races start at 7. Race cars, sprint cars, Summer Showdown Series. What more could you ask for? Cotton Bowl Speedway, Saturday night, July 13th. Who will be in the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lane? Let's find out together. Green flag, green light. Let's go racing.
Absolutely. Big one coming up. Cotton Bowl Speedway coming up this weekend. Bobby, I'm going to flip you over here just for now. That way you are the only thing, and we're not seeing just a black box here. Try to work and figure out what's going on right there. But the good thing is that we have the audio. But yeah, I mean, I think with a show like that, I mean, the more that you can encompass into all of that, I mean, and then you get to the whole other conversation, to where it gets to time management, to where it's like, how is that going to be, how quick are you going to be able to get done with the show, because you've got all these different things that you want to have happening. And that's where it really gets tricky, because it's like, I saw, and it really seems, I mean, yesterday with the NASCAR race, when you started figuring in a time limit, I didn't think that I would ever see that in NASCAR. And I got to tell you, and we could talk about that a little bit later on in the show, but that was a pretty damn ballsy, smart move right there for them to figure that part out.
Well, it's something they mentioned about doing back a couple of weeks ago when they talked about it, when they knew they were going to get to a stretch of races where the tracks didn't have lights. And you always got to be prepared for that worst case scenario, whether you're a NASCAR track or you're a local track. And so they ended up having an idea in terms of, well, when it first got announced a couple of weeks ago or a month or so ago, it kind of flew under the radar. You had your typical naysayers that were talking about how horrible of an idea it was and stuff like that. But then again, at the same time, you had the ability to come through and, you got to see it in live action. We've seen local short tracks come through and try to do timed races. And a lot of times the races are just really slow, marred with cautions, and you'll get 10 laps out of a 20-lap feature because they hit the time limit. So I think there's a fine line between setting a time limit for a race versus setting the time limit for the overall show. It's a razor's edge margin on how you want to set up to do that. But when you run in 8 or 9 classes a night, something's got to give, and you just, sometimes it's luck of the draw when you get to the caution field test.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of folks to where it comes to the whole thing with time limits, because I do see racetracks at times that will actually exercise a time limit thing, and folks get pissed off. And I mean, if you think about like what Ingalls was talking about right there, if you get into a 25 lap feature race, depending on what's going on, I mean, you should be able to streamline that and run it really, really quick, especially when it comes to modifieds. I get that some of these things get out of control and they kind of drag themselves out, but you really should be able to do that in a very timely manner. And I liked the thing yesterday. And there's been a lot of pushback on everything that went on right there. But I think they had an hour and at least 10 or 15, 20 minutes to be able to figure out the new strategy. And man, I love, look at Formula One. I mean, a lot of reasons why people love Formula One is that it's, you know what you're getting. It's going to be 58 laps or whatever the time thing is. And then if you hit that time limit, sorry, you're done. I mean, you drag this shit out, and at some point you're going to lose interest, especially when you're trying to pile all this shit into one race night.
Yeah, it's definitely crazy nowadays because, you know, and we don't want to pick on any single track. You know, the promoters want as many race cars in the pits as possible. Now, yes, sometimes we saw the comment that popped up about sometimes you're hearing sport mods and limited mods aren't the same. A lot of it has to do with sanctioning to a certain extent, but depending on which track you race, you know, sometimes track have their own specific rules for those classes to try to keep the drivers locked in at a racetrack. I've never agreed with that. I've always felt, because, you know, you're always going to get that racer. You hear every racer say it. I'm pissed off. I'm never running here again. I hate this place. I'm going to go somewhere else. And then they race at the other place, and the same shit happens to them. And they're like, I hate this place. I'm never coming back. And then they go back to the old place. And so, you know, it happens, right? When, you know, the little Forrest Gump thing with the smiley face that says shit happens, that should be on the dash of every single race car, because it is. It's not the bug or the windshield. It's the toilet or the statue. You know, at some point, this sport shits on you and shits on you hard.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it absolutely does. And Jared Fryer coming up here in just a matter of moments. We'll talk with him, kind of going over to the asphalt side. But it's like when you look at this whole situation, I mean, kind of the discussion right there with modifieds and when it comes to sport mods and limited modifieds and all that. It's always been a situation, whether it's on dirt or pavement, to where you had the class. I mean, go back and think about with the modifieds back in those times. I mean, I don't care if you're here, Louisiana, Mississippi, wherever you are, you had all those divisions. And what happened was you had guys or ladies that did not want to run in those divisions. So you develop another class. And that's what continues to happen right now. And that's why, you know, we were just talking the other day about E mods and B mods and all these other different things. And look, I'm totally down with the junior limited thing because I like the way that works. But go back and look on the pavement side. I mean, you had super late models. You had guys that didn't want to race super late models. You get a pro late model class in there. That thing overtakes super late models. That thing falls off, and boom, here's the super late models making their way back again. And now here's outlaws. You know, where you're using pro late model cars or super late model cars, and it's just that gradual, like throwing shit in the washer and then taking it out and put it in the dryer and stuff spits out. And before you know it, you have too many classes and you have shows that run way too long and people are pissed. And then you got to have another class. Street stocks all the time, Bobby. You remember back in the day, hobby stock, it graduates to a street stock, then a super stock. Oh, we got to have a new class. Let's have a pure stock.
Well, I think part of it is that people wanted to run a class that they couldn't afford, but they wanted all the luxury. Like when you're able to start putting late model, and this is back in the day when you could still find Camaro parts, bodies and stuff in the junkyard. When they started allowing aftermarket late bodies on street stocks, that's when the street stocks turned into super stocks, street stocks. Right. And then when they had the late model body, well, hell, they wanted cheap late model shocks. And then the guy that had the late model was like, well, hell, for just a little bit less money, I can go down and run a limited late model and have the same amount of fun and spend less money on shocks and tires and all that shit. So then you created two classes in that.
Right. And then you get Bobby like you have now, like the factory stock, like Ingalls was talking about. I mean, that thing pays $5,000 to win on a big show. I mean, shit, what are you going to run? I mean, shit. I mean, it only makes sense with a lot of it. And it's the racer mentality. It's a lot of, it's a lot. And it's the same conversation that we have had year after year. And now we're just seeing it a little bit more on the dirt side. But I will tell you one class we can sit here and talk about division series where super late models on pavement, all these different ones, but the late model stock car class in the Cars Tour is the one that for me that's the one that gets my heart going. And we just had another big one this past week. And joining us once again, welcome back, my man, on the Revved Up Sports Show.
Okay, I found this on the web for where all these different ones in the Cars Tour is the one that we had another big one this week.
Siri.
Check it out.
They're Siri. Series. It is our man, Jared Fryer. Jared, welcome back, my friend.
Yeah, glad to be back. Thanks for having me.
Jared, how cool was it? We can break that race down and do all of that cool stuff. How great to be back behind the wheel again, my man. It's been a little bit for you.
Yeah, it felt good. Yeah, watching it home on the couch definitely sucked. I wanted to be a part of it, and luckily things worked out, and I was actually felt like we were in the hunt for it there this past week, so it felt good. That was just felt like it was a pretty good comeback. Man, it was a good racetrack for me to go to, and like I said, to be back at the racetrack and racing and competing was amazing.
No doubt.
So, Jared, we've seen the evolution of the Cars Tour go from kind of a regional type of stock car, right? The Mid-Atlantic late model stock to being owned by Justin Marks, Dale Jr., Kevin Harvick, and Jeff Burton. And you've seen the deal with Flow Racing coming in, making their broadcasts as top notch and stuff like that. The weird question that I have for you as a competitor in that series and done that for, been racing that series for a long time, is the series getting too big? Like too big to where it can't support itself? Or am I just totally thinking completely wrong that it'll just get bigger and bigger and better and better?
I think it's doing good. I don't think there's such thing as getting too big. I think for me, first race back, midweek race seemed to be a really good thing. I know they're a little bit harder on some of the racers, but as far as the fans and car count, I felt like it was good. It's definitely different than, your local racing. I feel like the tour guys is definitely an elite group, and it's definitely tough to run and compete with, and it takes a lot to do. But it's always kind of been that way. Maybe not as bad as it has been now with some of the bigger teams showing up and stuff. But I feel like our team is kind of a true testament that smaller teams can do it, and it's not out of reach for anybody. I feel like so. I think everything's good on the Cars Tour side of things. I mean, it's always been expensive to race, so
Sure.
It's definitely not getting any cheaper. But it's always been that way. I feel like, and everything that they've done is really, I felt like, helped it. I feel like the viewership on Flow Racing, and like I said, the fans showing up to the racetrack and having guys like William Byron and Corey Heim show up to race with us, and even Harvick and them other guys that show up only helps it. So I think it's on the right track.
Jared, it really seems like to me with the Cars Tour as it's progressed, and again, you with the Cars Tour, I mean, you've won Cars Tour championships. I mean, you were a Cars Tour staple. It really seems like to me that they've done a really good job where keeping a lot of what made the tour, and then doing like what Bobby's talking about there with some of the new blood and some of these guys that have come in. They've really done a great job of building it up, but at the same time keeping it what the original concept was, which is grassroots stock car racing, late model stock cars. I think they've done a really good job doing that to this point.
Oh, absolutely. There's still a lot of blue collar racers in it. I think the only thing you might see more often now is, some of these development drivers come through there and groom them through the Cars Tour, because it's been such a big hit, and the competition's really strong. So I think that's the only thing that you might see. But as far, I feel like Cars Tour and all the new owners have done a really good job with everything. I mean, shoot, the races this year have been some of the best finishes, maybe, so I don't know. It's been good. I think everything's good. I think they're doing right. So it was good to be back and racing with them.
That's right.
So my next question is, and you don't have to give away your speed secrets. How the hell is a late model stock car so damn fast? Because you can't see like super late just burn the tires up, and they start out great, but their races are kind of long. But I've never understood how a late model stock car is able to stay as fast, as consistent as it is the whole race long. What's the secret of that sauce?
I think we're at the right combination with the weight and power ratio, where the supers are lighter but got more horsepower, and I feel like it's a little bit easier to spin the tires, where we don't have quite the horsepower, and we also got the weight, a little bit heavier car, so
Mhm.
so they produce more grip, and this new tire really don't fall off. So, with it being a little bit harder for us to spin the tires, especially early in the race, it's harder. Now, late in the race when the tires get hot and start to wear, it's easier, but I feel like that's just a combination of why they're fast the whole race and have got faster. The late model stocks used to have under, I feel like 400, definitely under 500 horsepower. Where now we're well over 500 horsepower cars. So that's helped them a ton on the speed side of things.
Jared, talk about that part there. I'm glad you mentioned that because it's that's one of the to me one of the bigger stories of 2024, whether it be in supers, pros, or you guys with late model stock cars to the new tire. It's one of those things to where the tire company went back and saw some of the other stuff that's been going on. They went back and developed a tire. I know on the NASCAR side, people beat up Goodyear, but just the fact that the tire manufacturer has gone in and done their homework to help make you guys, I mean, save you money, make you a better race car, give you longer runs. I think that's a big deal happening in 2024.
Yeah, it's man, tires have always, can always be the blame and will always be the blame.
Yeah.
But it's like I said, in one of my interviews after race, I wasn't a fan of this new tire after racing on it that first race. It's just did some things that some of the older tires haven't done. Some of the characteristics throughout the runs that it did. It's a little bit inconsistent, but then at the same time, they've had some of the best races and finishes this year on that tire. So I don't know. It's just necessarily something that we've been used to, and now it's new, and why we think it's not good. But as far as the racing and the end result has been the best, I mean, like last year at Caraway, there was only two of us really close, and then this year there was 5 or 6 of
Yeah.
us all right there under a blanket. So I don't know. Some of that too is a competition is definitely stepped up, and it's harder. You got more cars capable of winning, so that definitely throws a little bit of change in it. But yeah, the tires have definitely been all over the place. I feel like from 20 to now, but I feel like they've definitely got better. It seems like a little bit more consistent than earlier in the year. It seemed like they were having some issues earlier in the year, but it seemed like everything was consistent this weekend.
So, Jared, how important is the flow racing aspect of the Cars Tour? Is that what's making it so popular to get to the masses? Because Flow does a lot of dirt track racing, but you flip on any night of the week and catch a dirt race.
Oh yeah,
It seems like it's out of the box. It seems like it's out of the box for the asphalt stuff to be on Flow Racing, but their coverage is top notch. Middle of the week, you're watching a Cup Series production, on a smart TV from the comfort of your couch with a cold beer that costs half as much as at the racetrack. How important has that Flow Racing been to help expand the name and the brand of the Cars Tour?
yeah, I think it's good. That could go either way. I know when the whole Flow and some of the other stuff come out, they had some people wasn't very happy about it because they felt like it was taken away from the fan count at the racetrack. But just like prime example, tonight I've been watching the dirt race from Lincoln. It's like I'd have never been able to go to Lincoln, but I can sit at home and watch it. Same deal with y'all. I mean, y'all all the way in Texas. Like it's hard for y'all to make it out to race. So I think it's good. Especially I think it's brought a lot of new viewers to racing that couldn't make it or would never make it out to a car store race, but can catch it on Flow, whether it's a dirt racer or a new fan. So I think it's good. Obviously, I don't see the viewership of it, but I can tell by the talk it's obviously really good, and then by the highlights all over social media, and even on Flow. Like I seen the highlight from the Caraway race, the last 2 laps they had it on Flow tonight. So that was pretty cool to advertise to, well, like I said, whether it was a dirt track race or asphalt track people, what Cars Tour is and how big it's got. I feel like because I feel like it's really blown up a lot with Flow taking over and having such a good production there, and everything they've done has been top notch.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go back to that race. You win the pole, 16.887. That for you, I mean, it had to be really cool for you coming back. I mean, for folks that don't know, been out of the saddle there for a little bit, getting over an injury and so forth. For you guys, and again, I think one of the coolest things, I mean, it's always been with you, I mean, with your family. To me, it's been so cool because you guys are just like the rest of us. I mean, you guys are regular people.
Yeah.
You don't have ally. You don't have all these different things that people do. You guys come out and do this on your own, and for you guys to storm out of the box this way, win the pole, run the race that you ran right there, man, that's got to be really gratifying for you guys.
Yeah, it was awesome. We went and tested and made laps Friday prior to the week there to try to kind of get reacclimated with everything, the tires, and just try to see what we had there. It's been 4 or 5 months, more than that really, since I've been out in the car, and haven't ran on the new tires, so got a feel for it. And then we showed up on race day and put a set of new tires on it, and everything seemed to be going good. Honestly, everybody at AK Performance and Kendall Sellers really helped me a lot because the new tires reacted a lot different than I expected. So some of the ideas that I had on changes really weren't working like it should, and Kendall helped me a ton on it. Made some really good changes for us, and I really didn't expect a pole. I've never been a good qualifier, and it seems like it's been really even harder this year. So I was just hoping to be in the top 10. Honestly, I didn't feel like we had quite pole speed in practice. I feel like our car drove good. I just didn't think we had that kind of speed. And when we laid that lap down, I was pretty happy with it. But I figured it'd get beat. And William was really fast in practice, and he was the last car to go out. And luckily, we beat him. So that was definitely a big shot in the arm for the race. And obviously, as a racer, I'm a little disappointed in the race. I know we didn't fall outside the top 5 all race long, but still, it's good to run there. I'd like to maybe been a little better at the end on our car, but to be the first race back this year and to start the season that way, I felt like my season was really good. I've always said anytime you go to the racetrack can be competitive like that and run inside the top 3 most of the race and even lead some laps. That was it's definitely a good thing. So I was happy with it all around.
Jared, let's talk about aero for a minute, because some people don't think it applies on the short track, but it really does. I love the Mustang. I think that it's one of the slickest, cars that we got. I love your Mustang. Love the way the nose looks.
Yeah.
Same thing even with the Camaros, the way that they look on the racetrack. Have you noticed as much stuff as you've used to race? Is the new kind of Gen 7 type body, has that changed the aerodynamics on these short track cars, or is it still just as simple as hop in the seat and hammer down?
On some of the tracks, it definitely does affect it more. Some of the faster, higher speed tracks, it's definitely made a bigger difference because that body I feel like is a lot wider than the old body. Aero's obviously always been important, but I feel like, yes, it's more important now with that bigger body. We got way more spoiler than we've had before. Like I said, the nose punches a bigger hole in the air. So it's definitely important. Some of the tracks, not as important, but yeah, it's definitely made it more of a challenge, especially as you're racing so close with them guys. Like when you get tucked up behind them guys, you kind of lose the front end and it doesn't drive like it did before you caught them. So it's definitely a challenge, but you kind of get used to it the more you race and learn and figure things out.
No, Rodney, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry about that. There we go. When you guys have like Byron that shows up to race with you guys this week, and obviously Josh Berry has done what he's done, and progressing through the different things that he's doing. How much pride do you take in the fact that these guys show up and you guys are setting a mark? I think that you guys, when they come to race with you guys in late model stock cars and the Cars Tour, you are making them better. I think a lot of, like William Byron, for example, I've said for a long time, when I saw him start to come race with you guys, he got a lot better on Sunday. You take some pride in that you're elbows up racing with those guys, and a lot of times they can't beat you.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely feels good when you do beat them guys because, I mean, they are the best. They're at the top of the sport for a reason. So when you outrun them and beat them like we did Kyle Larson last year, that was pretty cool. We knew William was going to be tough. He's got experience in these late model stocks, and obviously he showed that and ran well this week. So it's cool. I don't mind it. I actually kind of like it when they do race, because, I mean, I'll probably never stack up with any of them guys ever in the Cup Series. So for them guys to come race with us, I think is really cool. And too, when you can beat them, I think it kind of says a lot about Cars Tour and the competitors that we race against.
Absolutely.
Jared, let's come back to talk about midweek racing again. We kind of touched on it where a lot of the tour races are midweek, and it kind of opens up that weekend warrior stuff to some of these other guys that want to do it. Is it better for the budget to just run one big race on the weekend? I mean, the guys that have the money are going to run all the time anyway. Like, you got them running the Hampton Heat and stuff on the weekend and the Triple Crown. That's not Cars Tour, but still late model stocks. All the guys show up at the same races. But talk about the midweek deal. Is that a good thing, or do you think it's better? I mean, it seems like it's working because there's on a Wednesday night, you got a full field of cars and a full grandstand with, standing room only to watch you guys race. But from the competitive standpoint, how different is it to race on a Wednesday night versus a regular Saturday night show?
It's honestly just another race to me. It doesn't matter what day. I think it changes for the fans more than it really does us. This year wasn't as hectic as last year. Last year we raced, I think, on Wednesday and then had to turn around and be at the racetrack on Friday at South Boston to race Saturday. So that was a big adjustment for us and a lot of preparation took into that. But as far as the midweek races, man, I like them. I think they draw a really good crowd at the tracks, and then, like I said too, on the viewership on Flow. Not much happening during the middle of the week, especially during the summer, other than people going on vacation. So I think it brings out the fans. But as far as, like I said, the competitor side, it's just another race to us. It don't matter if it's a Saturday or Sunday.
That's right. I think our thing, Jared, is man, we're doing good to get a Saturday race in Texas. So these midweek things for us, it's like, damn, how can they do that? Yeah. Again, a different time, different place. So for you now, back behind the wheel, I mean, it's one thing that you come back, you get behind the wheel, you have that hell of a run right there, and that was such a great epic 25 laps at the end of that thing.
Yeah.
So now what? I mean, for one thing, take me through that feature race at the end, because I always say 25 to go. It's a Saturday night feature, and that was, you guys were just all over each other with good racing. But now what? Now what?
For us at the end, honestly, I didn't know what to think when I was obviously giving it my all there and kind of hanging on tough there at the end. I felt like I didn't have anything for the top two guys, but I felt like if things went right, we got in the right line, could get a good restart, we could probably get the third. When that caution come out, you never know, man. That can be a good thing or a bad thing. And the way that we chose in the cone and we had to line up fourth, I was worried that we were going to fall back because the outside line hadn't been going that well on the restarts prior to that. So luckily we were able to fight back and things kind of worked out, and we kind of slipped into fourth there at the end. But at the initial start there, it didn't look good with 7 to go. We kind of falling back and struggling to keep up, but luckily things worked out.
Yep, absolutely.
So what's on tap for the rest of the year, man? Are you just going to cherry pick as the schedule and dollar amounts allow it, or you want to run more races, or what's the rest of the year hold for you in 2024?
Yeah, right now things are a little bit uncertain, but we're for sure going to run the Wilkesboro races. Luckily, one of them got rained out, so I was able to run both now. And Martinsville, hopefully can get things worked out to go run the Triple Crown race at Langley, and hopefully win that for the second time. That'd be nice. I really enjoyed that race. So there's a couple more races too we're hoping to run. We're just going to kind of pick and choose. I really kind of like picking and choosing, make sure we're fully prepared and everything's ready to go. We got all the right stuff. So, just kind of hit some of my favorite tracks and some of the bigger money races.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, my man, to see you at the front of the pack, especially diving back in that way. And when I'm watching short track racing and it's like Fryer, I'm like, that's what it's all about right there.
Yeah.
So really good stuff, man. Congratulations on that run. And man, looking forward to seeing you do it again. And let's obviously do this anytime you want, my man. You got an open platform right here with us.
Sounds good.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You bet. There he goes, Jared Fryer. I'll tell you, man, that's the way that you come back, because I'd kind of forgotten about him a little bit. I knew that he had an injury situation, but the fact when he showed up and then I saw him at the speed chart on the speed charts there at the beginning, and then when he wins the pole, like he was talking about, I'm like, wait a minute, Fryer's not the best dude when it comes to qualifying. I knew that it was going to be a good weekend. Man, that was so cool to see.
Yeah, no, it was really cool to see. Obviously, Fryers, the whole family is very special to our heart. Because obviously, if you didn't get a chance to check the archive out, we posted the other day with Pops there, the Beaumont or Freddie Fryer, one of the best interviews you'll catch on one of the archives that we got. So check a couple of about a week and a half ago. You can check out the interview with his grandpa, the late great Freddie Fryer. But yeah, we're partial to Fryers on this show. But definitely, it's so cool. Like, to me, he never let the Fryer name override him, right? Like, even when he ran here in Central Texas, like, everybody knew him as, it was like everybody's just like, that's Freddie's grandson. That's Freddie's grandson. Yeah. But he didn't let that bother him. He went from this is Freddie's grandson to this is Jared Fryer. And so he's able to make his own name, make his own little legacy that he's got going. But he still hadn't forgot where he comes from, because, when they do throwback stuff, he usually does a throwback to Freddie's old paint scheme. So it's cool to watch. I mean, and obviously we're partial to him on the show because he's been on the show more than one time. So it's cool to see people that we know. It's cool to see people that we know and talk to on the show do well in the real world of racing.
Yeah, it's always a really cool thing with them because it is. I mean, it's one of those things to where with the Fryer family, with Jared and Mark and all of them, and like you talked about with that conversation with Freddie, you can go back there and even through all the success and everything that Freddie did, it was Freddie was. He was just a race car driver, man. And he did it with his family. Him with his brother. That's what it's always been for them. And for them for Jared to come out and run, especially in that scene, because like we were talking about right there, that race at Caraway, I mean, when you have Byron coming in and you had everything that was going on to the end of that race, and I got to say, I had some folks that were messaging me at the end of that, and it's like, so is that really a cool thing when the series owner's car wins the race? Look, as long as they're teching the stuff fair, which is the main thing, that's important. These guys were giving each other a lot of respect on the racetrack. I can guarantee you that I was flashing back as they ran those last 10 laps. I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be name the track, where you get guys taken out and you're going to get guys punted and people pissed off and wanting to fight. And you never saw that. They sat there and they raced the way you race on a short track. And I think that's just in and of itself tells you how great these late model stock car races are, man. This is the best thing going on. Look, I'm a super late model. I'm a pro late model guy. I love calling those races. I love doing all these different things. Cars Tour is where it's at. No doubt about it.
Well, they've got a magic formula that's working. I mean, you don't have the new ownership buy into that thing unless it's worth buying into. None of those guys that bought that tour are dumbass businessmen. The key there in that is that they are businessmen. And like Jared said, they haven't tried to reinvent the wheel either, which has been a good thing. They're trying to expand the brand, I think, because they got the West Coast deal going. But the biggest thing is that I would just like to see the late model stock car stuff move and branch out more than just the Mid-Atlantic. I'd love to see what a late model stock car could do at Pensacola.
Yeah.
Right. Let's see Pensacola Mobile, some of those other iconic places, Cordele. right? It's close enough base to the Carolinas. They run good at Hickory, they run good at Caraway. Run up those tracks in Virginia. So I think that, and some of them in Tennessee. I think that it's such a unique appeal to the late model stocks that I think they could have more of a, I don't want to say national appeal.
Houston.
I don't want to say national appeal because they've got it because of the flow, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'd like to see the late model stocks have that same reach as, say, a super late model does. Like you see the same super late model guys running in Pensacola that you do in Michigan, and you see them running in Florida, and you see the same guys running in the Midwest and all of that, where your late model stock guys, they got their own little ecosystem that works, but I just feel like it could be a bigger ecosystem and make late model stock cars really something special.
Yeah. Well, and I think a lot of that really is because, like we've watched with the Outlaws, for example, we see a little bit of a drop. Whether it comes to Mobile or Pensacola, these different whatever you want to call it. But we see it in Florida as our friend Jennifer Brinson checking in. Thank you, Jen, for checking in as well. But it's one of those things to where, like with Ricky, what they have done is when they took that, and our friend Cody Brusso is one that has just been really adamant on how you fix that division. A lot of what's happened with the sportsmen, with the USRA sportsmen, to where it's like you limit motor, you limit shocks, you do all this, you try to tie it back in. Still the same race car, still the same long nose, big ass thing that I talk about all the time. What I like about the late model stock car is that you haven't seen a lot of the copycat stuff for that. They've kind of left it alone, and I envision that if you could really get to a big show to where you had like a Cars Tour late model stock car race and a sportsman / outlaw, whatever you want to call it, that would be like a huge draw, for not only for Flow or Racing America or Race On or whoever may be doing that, but I think folks would be really dug into that. And the other part, it's the finances. They've done a really good job. And like talking about with Byron and all these guys that come in, I still love the fact that, and I know that the teams in the Cars Tour, I know they're well financed, but I still like that William Byron didn't win that race the other day. To me, that was one of the biggest things to me coming out of that race.
Yeah, and he smoked their ass in super late models too when he would come race with them too. So a lot of that's with the team he was with, though. Donnie Wilson doesn't have horrible stuff. He's got grade A, top-notch equipment. But I think that's the same stuff he got into, for the Cars Tour race. These guys are not getting in bad equipment when they come race. So I think that it's a challenge. Obviously, a couple of weeks ago when you had Chase Elliott and Kevin Harvick running a Blizzard Series race, yeah. Grandstand showed. That to me was one of the biggest gates I've ever seen at Pensacola that was not named the Snowball Derby.
That's right. Yeah, and that's what brings them in. I mean, that you remember the old days of when you had a local racetrack, and I mean, I saw it here firsthand in Austin and San Antonio when Bobby Allison would show up and AJ would come to run a race, and I mean, those dudes showed up, and you remember the days of San Antonio with the Winston Racing Series thing when Mikey Waltrip and all these guys show up. I mean, that's going to bring these guys out, so that's a big factor. But again, that's the whole disconnect that we go back to versus what we see, with the Sunday stuff versus to the regular season stuff. But that's great conversation, man. But late model stock cars, that's a really cool thing. Deborah, I saw you, my lady. I didn't want to pull that up because I ain't all about that. But thank you for checking that out. That was a very fun race, and I look forward to doing those more. But yeah, late model stock cars and a sportsman outlaw type of. And here's what's weird to me, Bobby, is for all the problems that we have had in Texas, it's very weird to me that we were here on 7/8/2024 and we look at the things that we race in Houston. Truck count is horrible. We have none for the most part. I think we were going to have a really good modified race this past weekend had it not been for the impending storm. But the one thing that really seems to be surging a little bit that is kind of hurting around the country is the Outlaws. Have you noticed? The Outlaws are kind of picking up a little bit. I never thought I'd see that. I never thought I'd see that around here.
Well, it's like when they started picking up in Pensacola, like they were the leader in the Outlaws, right? That they had a ton of them down there, and then it kind of, as bad as it sounds, a lot of times racetracks are monkey see, monkey do. You see it. That's how we get so many classes, right? You see an idea that takes on at another track, and you see lots of cars, and then the promoters are like, I want that at my track. Well, it doesn't fit any rules that you have at your track. Well, help another class so we can get those cars. So I think that's kind of what happened with the Outlaws. They got diluted a little bit. But now that they're kind of, it's no different. Racing is cyclical. I don't think that those cars are going to go away. I think what really put a damper on those was the purpose-built Outlaws versus having the used old super late model chassis and pro late model chassis. I think that's because when you had guys coming in spending $50,000-$60,000 on an Outlaw in a class that wasn't designed to spend that much money on a car, that's when the guys with our budget buddies, they were like, hell, I can't compete against that. I'm just going to keep it in the garage.
Yeah, and kind of back to Jen's point right here. I think one of the really cool things, Gina did a lot of good things there with Gulf Coast and Mobile, but I think one of the coolest things that she did, and I told her this when she had the idea. She's like, look, I want to, talking about pro late models right there, because the pro late model to me is kind of the one where it's like, when she said, I want to run 30 to 40 lap main events for the pros, and I'm not going to pay them X amount because she didn't have it in the budget. I mean, that money wasn't there. But when she said, I want to let them come out, I want to let them run 30, 40 lap feature races, and let's see who shows up. And I said, it's never going to work. And you had all of these drivers that couldn't get out there and run these big pro late model races. It's like 15, 17 pro late models that came out and ran. And I think that's where it's these ideas kind of a little off the map. And yeah, I mean, I know that those PLA pro late model teams lost their ass. I mean, to tow out there, to buy tires, to do all this. But you know what? It gave them a chance to race. And I think that's where what the late model stocks do. And I think that what the sportsmen do, and some variants of Outlaws, what's happening in Texas, is it kind of gives you hope. For some of those divisions.
A little bit of hope. I mean, and the other part too, with going back to Gina's pro late model idea, is not everybody that gets into a pro late model needs to step foot in a 100-lap pro late model race. They need to start building somewhere 30, 40, 50 laps. Exactly. You start running progressively better, start winning 40, 50 lap late model races, and once you pop into a 100-lap late model race to see what's going to happen. So I think that was a good idea. The teams, obviously, financially, does it cost the same amount of money to run 50 laps as it does to run 100? A little bit more, a little bit less than fuel. You're still going to buy new race tires, but I think the experience level of some of those younger developmental drivers really paid off. When they get to run 50 laps instead of 100. Yeah.
I think we saw a lot of young folks that kind of learned through that and are really starting to do really, really good things. So a great conversation right there with Jared. And again, great conversation that we're talking with Jason Ingalls over on the dirt side. Before we dive into some of the NASCAR stuff and what we thought about all of that, how about a word from some of the folks that helped make this program possible? It is my friend Tom McKay and his daughter from Audiovisual Consultations.
Hi, this is Tom McKay with Audiovisual Consultations.
And Camilla McKay.
Hey, kid, you want to hear a dad joke?
Sure, old man.
A guy walks into a flat... Oh, that was terrible. A guy walks into a store and buys an 85-inch flat screen for $2,500. I wasn't done with my joke yet.
Yeah, you were. Here, I got one. What's worse than paying for one overpriced surround sound speaker?
I don't know what.
Paying for two overpriced surround sound speakers?
All right, well, here at Audiovisual, we do like to laugh. And by calling 512-255-8678, you can share in that laughter. Stop paying extra for lesser quality and visit avconsultations.com today.
All right. You got me going now. One more.
All right, here we go.
A guy walks into a bar, and then a speaker, and then a projector.
All right. I think they get it, kid. Give us a call at 512-255-8678 or see us online at avconsultations.com.
And all jokes aside, remember to hug your kids, laugh with strangers, and make love to whoever the hell you want.
Just give us a call, 512-255-8678.
Speedway, and it all begins Sunday, July 7th with the prelude to the Nationals. The short track stars will have practice and the kickoff party qualifying draw. Then it's the big day, Tuesday, July 9th, when the green flag falls for the 45th annual Cobblestones Hotel Slinger Nationals presented by Lynch Buick GMC. It all goes down July 7th through 9th at Slinger Super Speedway. Racing starts at 6:30, and it's exclusively on Racing America. Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. Custom apparel and promo products for every occasion. Birthday parties, reunions, company apparel, school events, fundraisers, and more. Much more than t-shirts. It is On Demand Shirts. Check them out for your hoodies, shirts, koozies, and so many different products. On Demand Shirts and OnDemandShirts.com. A leading innovator in apparel throughout the racing industry and in the state of Texas. On Demand Shirts, more than shirts. On Demand Shirts.
Welcome to the My Race Pass app, the #1 app for motorsports fans. We want to make sure you get the most out of your My Race Pass app experience. With your new free account, you can use the My Race Pass app to see race day information, including event entries and official lineups and results for over 600 organizations across North America. You can also see track information and purchase online event tickets for select tracks. With your free account, you can also search for a track or series on the My Race Pass app and favorite their profile to receive news and race day notifications on your mobile device. To see more information and to see which app subscription is best for you, be sure to visit getmrpapp.com. My Race Pass, the ultimate racing resource.
Absolutely. Take that thing with you if you're going to be at a racetrack. It is the My Race Pass app. Also, My Race or a Race Monitor. Really, really cool ways to be able to check in with everything that's going on around the racetrack. Bobby, kind of diving in here as we start to wind this thing down. And again, a big, hopefully everybody doing well that may have been affected by some of these storms and stuff that have been going on with the hurricane coming through Barrel. Looked like Burl to me, right?
Yeah, they always have weird ass names for hurricanes nowadays.
It's like whatever.
All the normal names got used in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah, it's like whatever happened to Mike or Julio or something like that. But anyway, I don't cast shade at that. Your thoughts, because we talked about, let's talk about the Ricky Thornton Jr. thing. So Ricky behind the wheel tonight. He's going to be behind the wheel for Shepherd Racing in the 5S. But when you see that go down yesterday, very surprising to me. Especially when they say that they've had some discussions about maybe underperforming, kind of really hard to kind of buy into some of that, in my opinion.
Well, there's definitely more to the story than what got released, right? There's always the real story, and then there's the press release, right? The press release is the fluff stuff that makes you hear everything that you want to hear. I think part of it, it's hard to say that it's performance-based when the guy's leading 2-point series. And the guys won, 20-something races so far this year. So there had to be more to the story than that. Had to be some type of personality conflict between the driver and team owner. Because you're not just going to boot somebody out of the way you'll boot somebody away for a piss poor performance, but it's been a long time since we've seen somebody lose a high-profile ride midway through a season when they're having a pretty dang good season.
Yeah, that's kind of the whole thing. I mean, that's the dude they're all chasing, and to see what he does tonight. I mean, diving into that. I mean, that's one of those things to where it's like you're the prom queen. You're not going to be without a date very long because you're going to get picked up, and obviously he's done that right there. So it'll be real curious to see what happens next. But it was. I was having some discussions yesterday to where it's like the ego thing kind of dives in right there. And was it financial? I don't know. I don't know what all that was, but when you start seeing that stuff happen right there, that, great point. Great point right here. I think we're starting to see the comments check in. Our man, Chris Carroll, CWR Warriors. Yeah, I wish that I could underperform like that. That would definitely be a case right there. But there's got to be more to that. I'm sure at some point it's going to come out. But the whole thing is he's behind the wheel tonight. We'll see how this all checks out for him.
Yeah, definitely more to the story, more to come. What is it? The news stay tuned for more developing news on this story.
Yes, news cycles happen very, very fast. So we'll continue to follow that. And of course, the other one that we saw today. And I think that it really wasn't going to be a surprise after we saw some of the stuff that happened during the weekend with Logano diving in there for AM Racing, which again, Bobby and I, we know those AM Racing people quite well. But Haley Deegan now separating from that. And I think the writing was on the wall. I, for one, think that when she made the move to go there, combination of two things. I don't think she was quite ready to go to Xfinity yet, but at the same time, I think that she maybe should have waited for a different opportunity. There's what you see right there. You can read the quote for yourself. I'm not going to read it. For one thing, I can't see it, but just not a very good ending to not even what are we halfway through, and she's out of a ride.
Kind of surprising with the appeal she's got, but I mean, this is at the end of the day, like, it's entertainment, right? But these race teams are businesses, and it becomes business decisions, and the biggest business decision is based on performance. And for whatever reason, they just couldn't find the chemistry with her that they needed. I don't know if it's a talent issue. I don't know if it's an equipment issue, or if it was just a straight chemistry issue. Sometimes it just comes down to it just not going to work, right? I mean, when you date the right person and you date the wrong person, you just get that feeling like, you know what, this just is not going to work. We need to go our separate ways. That's no different than a race car driver and a race car owner. We just talked about it with Ricky Thornton, and kind of the same thing. You never know. There'd be more to the story than that. Obviously, you knew something that was up when they put Logano in there, but he was, had some of the complaints that she did about the equipment over there. So I don't know. Interesting times to be had there for sure.
Yeah, and some of the stuff that you read, and again, you never know what you read stuff, and it's like some of with Logano working with that team, trying to help make the car better, and he did. I mean, he really did. And the whole thing is with the eighth place finish. He stayed out of the way. I mean, it was kind of one of those things, and that's what you do sometimes when you're in subpar equipment, and that's not a knock at AM Racing, but I will tell you that I guarantee you that AM Racing is not at the status of JRM or Childress and RCR, all these different ones when it comes to those situations. But where I kind of worry about this more, not worry, but where I really think that it's going to be interesting for me to see what happens with Haley Deegan next is I think she needs a total reset, because I talk a lot about it on here, where her confidence is just probably just in the shitter. I mean, because it hasn't worked out. I mean, she is a great with social media when it comes to being a star, when it comes to being all of that. She's done that well. It's very hard for a female to do well in these upper echelon series. I just worry that, and this is where I'm curious to see, depending what her next opportunity is and her inner circle, how you fix her from this, because this is traumatic. I mean, this is an ugly divorce. It's an ugly separation. It's amicable, no matter how they spin it. But it's going to be tough for her to come back from this.
Well, I think part of it depends on what Ford wants to do. I think the reason she was in that car is because there's very limited access to blue oval rides in the Xfinity series.
Yep.
Ford has been on record to say they put their motorsports budget into the Cup Series with the Mustang and into the Truck Series with the F-150. Now, when you take the Xfinity Series and the Truck Series, opportunities are very, very limited, if hardly there at all. It's ThorSport in the Xfinity Series, and then you've got the two Haas cars ThorSport Truck Series and the Haas cars in the Xfinity Series. There's no telling which direction that Gene Haas is going to go with the Haas factory team coming up in 2025. He didn't say if he's going to continue to run one car in Xfinity Series or two. I think that it just depends on the level of involvement, because she is still considered a Ford development driver as far as what I know. So I think that's really going to depend on what happens with her moving forward, is what Ford decides they want to do with her. I still think you put her in a car with a great power. I think you put her in a super late model, but she can try to burn the wheels off and try to hold it together. I think she'd do a top 5 finish easily. Look what she did in the Superstar Racing experience in those late models.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw the Cars Tour reference right there. I mean, that could be something good for her, and maybe it is that you take some time off and you go and you kind of reground yourself a little bit. And the whole thing is, I think where Haley's different in just kind of comparing her to other folks. I mean, I've seen names thrown around. You know, I saw Patty Moise and Shauna, who talked with us and all the different things. Shauna Robinson, but I think that Haley's very much at a point to where she's a very young race driver. So I think it is a thing where she can go back and reset. And whether it's a dirt late model, whether it's a Cars Tour, whether it's maybe going back to off road, Bobby. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe she just goes back. She's got to get that confidence back because you know that's something that's got to be biting at her pretty bad. And I think that one of the things that I was always impressed with when it came to Haley Deegan was it really seemed like she was being groomed to do this at a pace that seemed manageable. And that's why to me it seemed like the jump to AM Racing to go to Xfinity this year, it just kind of seemed like you're expediting that a little too fast, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. It didn't work out, and now, I mean, now you're going to have, because it's after the race, Logano does this. Now you're going to have Josh Berry in the car next weekend, so you're going to have all of that going on. And I think it's one thing where Haley Deegan, as much as she can, you got to turn this damn social media off. You got to figure out what you're doing next, and they need to help her work through that. Whether it's Ford, whether it's Brian, whether it's her mom, I mean, they got to help her get through this.
Well, confidence is king, right? I mean, have you ever met a race car driver that didn't have an ego? Yeah, we know a lot of them, but they don't win a lot. That's the problem. When you win a lot and you run well, sometimes you have an ego about yourself. Not to say that certain guys we interview don't have egos, right? It's not a blanket statement.
Everybody does. Yeah.
When you win and you run well, your ego's there, right? You may not show it, but you have an ego when you start going out and winning races and kicking ass. Yeah. When you don't, you just don't have that extra spark when things go bad. So, she just needs to find a place where she can rekindle that spark, whatever the case may be. I think that Monster still loves her. They just have a lot of eggs in the Cup Series basket, especially if Riley Herbst goes to 2311, like we've been hearing. With that SHR charter. That'll be interesting that'll be interesting because you have two monster drivers in the same house.
Yeah.
But a lot of that still has to do with the money that Riley Herbst has from the convenience store business. But that's neither here nor there. Total another discussion for another show. But I think that I don't think getting her sponsors has been the problem. I think it's just that the performance isn't there for those high-end sponsors, right? I think that's where the disconnect is. So I think she can do well with any sponsorship she's got, but I think just because of the fact that the performance needs to be there, it's hard to market somebody that has like a 29th place average finish.
That's the whole thing. And I mean, I can tell you, I mean, when you're not performing for whatever reason, I mean, whether it's you, the driver, whether it's a team or whatever, I mean, it gets really hard. I mean, it gets really hard, and it's hard to believe in yourself. I mean, it's one of those things, we talk about it all the time. I mean, when you're beat down, when you're mentally not right, it's hard to get out of bed in the morning. I mean, to go do your job. I mean, it gets really hard. So hopefully that's what's going to happen right here, because what I don't want for Haley Deegan is I don't want her to go down as and you name the driver, a dude, a woman, whoever it is, you name the drivers that had all these potential, that you go back and you look at them and they got put in bad situations and they fell by the wayside. Not that she's going to, because she's got, I mean, look, she could never drive again. Let's say that she has run her last race, never gets back in an off-road thing, never does anything else. She's going to have a career and she's going to do well. But I want her behind the wheel because I truly think that young driver has the talent that it takes to do these things.
Maybe along the lines of a Casey Atwood.
That is the name that I did not want to mention, my friend. That is the name that I did not want to mention. And that's what I don't want to happen for her. Guys, before we go, Bobby and I were kind of going back and forth. We did that video earlier with the announcer guy getting a little out of control. We know that racetracks have a lot of people that work at the Speedway and things. I guess, Bobby, we could say that from time to time, racetrack communications can get a little out of kilter. You may not know what's going on. You may not know what's happening. I think kind of the consensus of what I'm trying to say is you kind of got to pay attention, don't you think?
I think paying attention is key. Whether or not you're on a radio or not, paying attention is the key that keeps from the video we're about to happen from happening. I guess it's a highlight. It's a low light in my mind, but it's not a fight, but it's not pretty either.
And it's the same thing where if you are a track official, be a track official. Don't get too carried away because this could happen to you. So if you couldn't really see that, I'm sure that maybe you've seen it on social media. What you had right there is you had something happen on the racetrack. I don't know exactly what may have gone on because this is, cell phone video, whatever, but there's still stuff happening on the racetrack. And this, I don't know if it's an official, I don't know who it is, but they go out on the racetrack on an ATV, which everybody has ATVs nowadays, which is something else that I think that people need to be a little more cognizant about. Goes out there and gets hit by a fucking race car. And that's
crazy, dude.
That's scary, dude. That is scary as hell to me.
Race cars always have the right of way, especially if they're on the racetrack. That's why you don't step out in front of them in the pits when they're coming. That's why you don't step out in front of them on the racetrack when they're coming.
Yeah.
The race car always has the right of way.
Yeah. We'll take another look at it here. I mean, you have to know what's going on right there, and I do. I mean, I see a lot of times to where folks just want to go running out on the track, and I get it from a family side to where it's like you have somebody involved in a fracas on the racetrack, and you want to dive out there and you want to go be a part of what's going on, but you got to remember, man, there are a lot of moving parts and pieces on this thing, and if you've sat on the inside of a racetrack or on pit road, wherever it is. This thing happens so fast, and that could have been a hell of a. I don't know the result of this, but I'm assuming that if we're still able to be looking at this, I'm assuming that this person has survived. I hope.
Yeah, it's the last I heard was some kind of broken leg or something like that. Clearly, when you get T-boned by a car like that in an ATV, so I don't think it was a dire situation to that extent, but. Yeah, it just means, I mean, you just got to pay attention. That's all it is. I mean, you got to do a better job of paying attention. I've almost got hit on pit road by cars because I was standing too close to the racetrack. When they come spinning out there at San Antonio Speedway back in the day. So it, you got to have your head on a swivel the whole time. Had a race car jump over my Texas Motor Speedway because I was the backstretch flagman. And I was looking to the right and I heard them crashing to the left. I ducked. They flew right over the top of me. So I remember that because the guy that was filming Big Hoss dropped the camera behind me, and he was about 4 feet behind me filming over my shoulder. And when they come crashing, he dropped the camera and scooted back, and I was still in front of the camera. So,
jeez, I'll tell you, man, it happens. It happens really, really fast. So kind of keep your head on the swivel. Just know your surroundings, and by all means, if something happens on the track, don't run out there. Don't run out there because you just never, ever know. Great show, Bobby. I know you need to get out and about. Go eat, my man. Go eat. Go.
I think I'm going to the Waffle House, man. I think the Waffle Houses up here open considerably longer than the ones we have down south. So
ain't nothing wrong with that. There is nothing ever wrong with going to a Waffle House. Great program that we talked about here. A big thanks, Jason Ingalls, MVP right there. He's going to be in that MVP list of folks joining the show. Dude's out in the middle of a storm out there, and he has found a way to get himself on the program. And, of course, Jared Fryer with a great run right there. Jared Fryer is back. The Fryers are back on the track, and looking forward to watching what those dudes do the rest of the year. Bobby, rest of the week, my man. When you coming home, and what the hell all is going on for you, my man?
I'll be at my work conference until Wednesday afternoon up in North Texas, and I travel back home to Central Texas. I have to go back to work on Thursday. I think I'm off on Friday, and then Saturday it's off to Cotton Bowl Speedway. So
Nice.
Get a chance to hang out with H and Marianne and get to check out our new sign on the backstretch.
Yeah, absolutely. Cotton Bowl Speedway. Hey, hey, let's play it one more time. The magical tones of our man, Milton Hope. Milton Hope's been under the weather. I can hear it on this thing right here. But this is coming up Saturday at CBS.
Speedway is the place to be as the stars and cars return to the fast track in Page, Texas. But wait, there's more. Return of the Southern United Sprint Cars. But wait, there's more. It's night number 1 of the Summer Showdown Series. Gates open at 5 o'clock. Races start at 7. Race cars, sprint cars, Summer Showdown Series. What more could you ask for? Cotton Bowl Speedway, Saturday night, July 13th. Who will be in the Advanced Auto Parts Victory Lane? Let's find out together. Green flag, green light. Let's go racing.
Right, Summer Showdown Series, race night number 1. And, of course, you got Slinger tomorrow on Racing America, so lots of really cool stuff to do. All right, you guys, be safe. Bobby, safe travels on your way home, my man. Enjoy that Waffle House. Thank all of you for being a part of the program. Thanks to the guests for checking in. Thanks to everyone for being a part of this. This is hashtag Real Race Talk, and we are live each and every Monday, 6:30 p.m. Central, 7 o'clock Eastern from Texas. Bobby, be safe, my man.
All right, man. Y'all have fun down there in Central Texas in the heat wave that's bound to happen. Everybody else in Houston in the path of that hurricane, stay safe.
That's exactly right. All right, you guys, we'll do it again next Monday. This has been the Revved Up Sports Show.